Hi, my name's Chris Scott and I'm here with Benjamin Sichel, or Ben. How are you, mate?
Hello, hi, Chris. I'm very well, thank you. I'm very pleased to be with you on this interview.
Excellent, excellent. We're in Margaux at the moment at your chateau, which is Chateau Angludet, which is it is in the heart of Margaux, really, isn't it?
It's not really on the heart. It's on the southwest side of Margaux Appellation. Chateau Angludet, which covers 80 hectares with 34 hectares of vines.
I was coming in, and it's not all vines. You'd think, oh, maybe you'd plant everything up, but there's a big area full of what do they call them? Cheval, is that right? Or horses.
Yeah, there are a few horses around here. I mean, the family is. I have four brothers and a sister, and we're all of my brothers were all in the wine business except for my sister. She's in horses, so that's why we need to have keep a bit of the land for her to put her horses on.
Fair enough. The family's been in Bordeaux for a while, but originally English, is that right?
Well, originally the Sichel is originally from Germany.
Oh,
in fact.
yeah. Well, it's not really an English name, is it? Sichel?
No, Sichel. Yeah, from Germany, and office in Bordeaux as a merchant company has been going is in Bordeaux since 1883. So going back to my grandfather, who was English and mainly living in England and running the office in Bordeaux as a merchant company. So going back and forth from England to Bordeaux, and so the first activity of the family was really as a merchant company. Then in 1938, my grandfather got involved in Chateau Palmer as a share owner.
Yep.
And that was really the first step into the production side of running the vines. And so since then, the family is a share owner at Chateau Palmer.
Lovely. And when did you buy Chateau Angludet?
So then that was really when my father took over the business. He wanted to live around Bordeaux. And so coming to Palmer, which is very close to Angludet, heard about Angludet, which was for sale. And that was in 1961. That was 1961, and came up here and bought the place, which Angludet at that time was the production of Angludet was very low at that time because of difficulties at the time and mainly the frost of 1956, which destroyed a lot of the vines which were in place at Angludet. And so when my father bought Angludet, there were just 7 hectares of vines in place, and most of those needed to be pulled out because they were in a bad state. So really everything had to be restarted since 1961.
Okay. And Margaux as a region, I always think of it on the river, Gironde.
Gironde,
yeah.
Yes.
But driving around, you can't see the river from here. I always think of Margaux on the river.
Yeah.
But it's not close by, is it?
Well, it is. The Appellation goes is along the river, but of course everybody is not has not the vines closer to the river. No, if you go driving along the D2, all the river is really at probably 2 kilometers from. A bit more than a mile from the D2 is a bit more than a mile from the river there. And so a lot of the, Chateau Palmer, Chateau Margaux, and have a lot of the vines on that side, which goes down towards the river.
Here in Angludet, do you get much influence from the river?
Yes, yes, we do in terms of weather. Being between the river and the ocean, we get that soft, moderating climate, and which do influence the of course the ripening and even if we can have big differences in terms of weather from a year to another. All that is combining, of that microclimate being between the river and the ocean.
I suppose because the Atlantic is so close, Bordeaux does get a lot of rain. I think I read somewhere that on average it's about 650 mils of rain a year.
It's more around around 800 millimeters a year. That is pretty constant, actually. The big differences can be when do we get those dispatching those 800 millimeters. Some years we get it at the wrong moment, and some years it's but the amount of rain a year is pretty constant, actually, from a year to another.
But it comes through all year round. Like some vineyards, if you get into the central vineyard, into continental climate, you often find that the rain tends to come over winter, whereas you do get a fair bit of rain in summer.
Yeah, absolutely. And the rain coming in summer is pretty much brought by the storms, which we have, which is one of the influence of the ocean and the river. Yeah.
The other thing about the area in Bordeaux, just in terms of climate, is you've still got a wee bit of the Gulf Stream coming along. The Gulf Stream runs down the side of France, doesn't it, and gets to about Bordeaux before it starts heading back across the Atlantic. In England, Gulf Stream's really important, otherwise England would be frozen like Canada is sometimes. But is it something you guys think about or you're aware of, the Gulf Stream here?
It certainly have an influence. I think it's pretty much out of our viticultural
hands. The thing about Margaux, and when we looked around the vineyard, I noticed a wee bit, is that a lot of people talk about gravel.
Yeah.
And you mentioned that some of your vineyard area, fair enough, you put it aside for horses, but in reality, you're not allowed to plant up there because it doesn't have that gravel.
Yeah, absolutely. Margaux appellation is, you're right, all about gravels and different layers of gravels, which are very important, sensitive in the way that really all that different layers of different gravels, more or less light gravels, meaning that they're more or less dry. Some gravels going more west of the appellation, I call them lighter gravels than the gravels which are closer to the river, which have a certain percent of clay in the subsoil, which is all that gives to the plant, to the vine, different reactions through the season and through the ripening, and depending on the weather, depending of the amount of water we're having during that year, it affects, of course, the speed or of the ripening.
Yeah. Clay tends to be a bit. If it gets wet, it's a bit cooler, whereas gravel can heat up and make things warmer.
Yes, but it's all so it can be a good thing or a more difficult result. It's all depending on the weather of the year. Some years when the weather's a bit too hot and dry, then those light gravels which dry up very quickly, deeply in the soil, can be more difficult for the vine that year. And
for example, 2003, which was a very hot, dry year.
Exactly. 2003 is an example where it was very hot. Luckily, not the driest year, but very hot with a lot of evaporation of the soil of the plant, of the leaves. And so having a bit of clay in the subsoil made help the vine going through the season. Yeah.
If you had a bit of gravel with maybe lighter, silty soils, that you might have got a lot more dehydration, vine stress.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it's very sensitive. I mean, we on Angludet play a lot. Or we try and get the balance of the vine as right as possible each year. And it's all according to the weather. It's all according to the temperatures and the amount of rain we have. And so in a wet year, we will not be cultivating the vines the same way as a hot year, a hot and dry year. And it's all depending on the vegetation we're leaving on the soil.
On the soil itself?
On the soil, between the vines. And we see that having a bit of, even if the vines have, the roots of the vine goes really deep at 3, 4, 5 meters down, and probably deeper than that, the roots, which are in the top meter, have a lot of effect on the crop of the year. The roots which are going a lot deeper are more helping the vine to survive in difficult conditions.
In dry years.
In really dry, makes that the vine will not just die. It'll survive, but will probably not carry the crop if it's too dry. And so having that vegetation at the top, we quickly see that as soon as the spring and the weather becomes a bit dry, we quickly have to destroy that vegetation, because otherwise it competes with the vine really quickly, and the vine's in stress too much, and the ripening is more difficult.
I noticed when we were looking around the vineyard, we had a look at your trellising that you've laid out. What did you say the trellising system was?
Trellising is it's called it's a local name called the taille médocaine, which is based on aiguillon pruning with lighter, less buds.
Pruning is...
Yeah, we have aiguillon pruning. Will be 2 canes on the side of the vine, going on both sides, with 2 small buds left underneath that cane to help the pruning for the pruning the next year.
Okay, so the buds give you the canes for the following year?
But that makes the number of buds on the vine, which is too much for Margaux appellation. So, and it's not only Margaux, all the main appellation of the Medoc do the same way, more or less. So we leave only the 2 canes on the side, which each of the cane will carry 3 to 4 buds.
Okay, so that's what, 3 to 4 buds. So you're getting about 6 bunches per.
No, we need more than 6. We need around 8 good bunches on the vine, because each bud should give 2 bunches. But then there's always something happening through the year on one of the buds or one of the grapes. So we make sure all that is put on to get at the end is to get 8 bunches on the vine. I
noticed that your fruiting zone is quite low to the ground as well. Given that you've got the river and the Atlantic nearby, does that mean that you're not too worried about frost? Although you did say the vineyard's being knocked about occasionally from frost. Is frost a real problem, or what's your main disease pressure? Is it or problem in the vineyard?
Well, starting with the frost, because that comes. Our fear of frost comes in spring. We always say, no, frost is not really a problem, but when it comes up, it can be a big problem. I mean, the last time it really hit Bordeaux area was, and that was a large area, was 1991 when it cuts off the crop of down to 20 or 25% of the crop. So it can be a big problem if it does happen, but luckily it's not too often.
Yeah, I haven't seen any frost protection like turbines or spraying to manage frost.
No, we don't.
So it's not as common that you need to put in expensive equipment.
Well, Chateau Margaux has their white grapes protected with spraying. Because it's in an area which can the frost more common, but no. Otherwise, and it's also because the Medoc area is, in fact, it's not flat, it's not hilly either, but it's all full of little we call gravel croup, which goes up at between 15 and 25 meters high. And so that makes it usually the vines are slightly protected naturally by the frost and being close to the river.
Yeah, because the frost flows down the hills.
Exactly, yeah.
What about disease pressure like powdery mildew or downy mildew? Because you with the water that you're getting, the rain, because you are getting decent rain, is that a problem?
Well, yes, it can be a problem, and we do have to be careful about of oidium and mildew. Yes, it can be a a problem, and it's all, yeah, you're right. It's all depending on the rain, but it's a constant pressure since start of the growing of the vine until the most sensitive season will be during the period around flowering season, where mildew can go straight on the grape, on the flowers, and just destroy the crop very quickly if we don't be careful. And then the pressure goes down through when we go to veraison, when the grapes are turning color, where the pressure goes down a lot, and we can be a lot lighter on the spraying at that time.
Yeah, they used to use a thing called Bordeaux solution, wasn't it? Which was what, copper?
Copper, yeah, bouillie bordelaise. Bouillie bordelaise, which is a mixture of copper and chalk.
Yeah.
Which is still used. Of course, copper was only used for mildew in the old days, but and was used a lot at massive quantities. The problem with copper is that once it's sprayed on the leaves, when the leaves fall on the ground, then the copper
leaches into the soil.
And it stays there, and it doesn't get
broken down.
It gets in the soil. And year after year, the soil can be disturbed, and phytotoxicity on the soil can affect the soil.
Okay, so you use other solutions now?
We have other solutions, but then we still use copper at very light concentration.
Okay, then. Want to talk a wee bit about getting the vines ready for harvest, and then the harvest and the winemaking. So from your point of view, when do you really start thinking about harvest, if you like? Is it something you start at the beginning of the season and work your way forward?
No, absolutely. I mean, harvest is, we always have that view of harvesting through all the year, through everything we do in the vines, is really to get at that harvest time when we want to get the best grapes as possible. So going through winter, all the pruning and all the main work on the vines is done through that period of pruning and getting the preparation of the trellising. Yeah. Then the first part of the growing season, which is from end of March to mid-June, will be just to help the vine and to get a nice and straight canopy.
So it's going straight up?
Well, we're helping it. If we don't do anything, then the vine will just grow all over the place, and it'll be on the ground. So we'll be there to help the growth, to get it nice and straight through the wires, up on the poles, and
vertical shoot position.
Vertical as possible, to get as best leaf exposure to sun as possible.
Mm-hmm. Everything's nice and short, though. I had a look. It looks like you've trimmed the top of the vine.
Yes, we got at the right height at this period. So all that is done in the first growing part of the season. Starting at end of June, we'll be starting to work on the fruit area. Which will be, and there it's really to from that time to early September, it's all work done in the vines to help the vine to ripen the grapes. This is surely the big change in viticulture since between what we're doing today and what we used to do 30 years ago. Today, we're a lot more helping the vine to ripen the grapes.
I noticed that the vines were quite exposed. Do you expose the vines? Well, you can. I would say that you'd expose the vines for one or two reasons: either to aid air circulation to reduce the disease pressure on the vines, and the other one maybe is to maybe let the vines see a bit more light so they ripen. Is that the two reasons?
Well, yeah, it's all a matter of balance. I mean, it's all depending on the weather, and it's not only one best way to cultivate the vine. It all depends on where the vine is situated, and it's all a matter of balance in terms of vigor, the amount of vegetation you have, exposing as much leaves as possible to sunlight. Yeah, the grapes mustn't be too much in shade. It needs to see the sun a little bit, but not too much, because we don't want the heavy and hot sun of summer to just burn off the skin. So
do you get a bit of sunburn?
We can. Oh, yeah, we can. We can, and it also depends of the time it comes up. One stage, at some stage, when the grapes are green and small, they're very sensitive to sunburn. It can happen in spring, where we will have very quickly going from 20 or 25 degrees to high 35s and close to 40 in a few days, and that the grapes don't like that change and that shock of temperatures.
What does the sunburn do to the grapes in terms of the wine? Does it?
If it's just a light sunburn that we can hardly see on the skin, then it'll affect the skin by being more fragile when it gets too close to the ripeness. And I'm mostly thinking about rot coming up, developing on the skin. But if it's more than that, if we can see the sunburn, the berry will just dry up.
Oh, okay.
And fall on the ground.
Oh, okay.
But it can be just not one berry. It can be the whole cluster, which is just all the sunburnt on one side.
I heard that they can sometimes give bitter flavours in wine if you use them.
Yes, if you use them, and some of the grapes are not getting to full ripeness. It's almost like a vine which is suffering too much of lack of water, and the ripening process slows down. And as soon as something happens on the cluster, if it's a bit of sunburnt on the skins or cluster hit by something, it'll affect the ripening, and it makes that grape won't ripen properly, and it'll either be more acidity, more bitterness.
Okay, so you're doing a bit of leaf plucking. Sometimes you want controlling sometimes the exposure, in some seasons less exposure.
Yeah, so what we usually do is that in first going through the vines in early July, we're going through the vines, removing a few leaves around the grapes, starting on the side of on the east side or the north side of the vine, where the sun comes up in the morning, and leaving all the other side with full leaves to protect the grapes from sunburnt. So we do that is usually done early July or end of June. Then we go through the vines at the period approaching the veraison, which is when the grapes starting to turn color. We'll be going through the vines, removing grapes if we reckon there are too many on some vines.
Like a green harvest.
Green harvesting, exactly.
Yeah. And that's what, so that you're basically reducing the crop load so that what grapes are left can ripen fully? Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, the balance, I was talking about balance earlier on, and this is one important balance, is there is a balance between the vine capacity to ripen a certain volume of grapes, according to the leaves exposed to sunlight. We know that need just about 8 clusters per vine to have the amount of crop that we need, and so we don't want more than that because then it won't ripen properly, and especially on some varieties more than the others, and depending also on the weather of the year.
Okay, so you've been doing some vineyard work, green harvesting, leaf plucking, some exposure. Are we ready for harvest now? Are we good to get the grapes in, or is there things you need to do as well?
Yeah, just finishing that work on the vines, then all that work done on the vines and I like the expression of saying that we're helping the vine to ripen the grapes, goes on until early September. And it's all a grape selection, a bit more leaf removing at the end of the summer, to make sure that everything happens, and we do it as the ripening is going on, to make sure that everything is happening properly, to get the best result as possible at the end. So then after that, we can get ready for harvest, yes.
And do you harvest all the grapes? Because you're running 3 different varieties, aren't you?
Yes, 41% of Merlot, 46% Cabernet Sauvignon, and 13% of Petit Verdot.
Petit Verdot is quite high. Normally Bordeaux, Margaux and Bordeaux is more 4-5%, aren't they?
Yes, it is quite high, 13%, and it's also quite recent for Angludet too. I mean, we always had Petit Verdot here at Angludet, but at a lower percentage and around 5%. I always thought it's doing really great here at Angludet, and just thought it was a pity it didn't show a little bit more in our blends. So starting around 15 years ago, we're starting to plant some more Petit Verdot to rise up slowly the percentage, and since 2007 we have between 10 and 12% of Petit Verdot in all our blends.
When you're harvesting, do you harvest everything at once, or do you use machine harvesting, hand harvesting?
The way we do it here at Angludet is we use both. We use machine picking and hand picking. The main reason is to be able to pick each plot at the best of the year. And that is very, very important and can affect quite a bit the final result. To explain that, I want to say that we have 3 varieties, and each of them are sensitive through the ripening to different parameters. Talking about the Merlot is the first to ripen. And in this area, in these soils, once again, which are gravel soils which dry up very deeply and very quickly, Merlot can be very sensitive to over-ripening. And we don't want the Merlot to overripe, because then it's difficult. I mean, it loses its character, it loses acidity, it becomes heavy and not very interesting. So I will not hesitate picking the Merlot a bit early in the year, and I prefer to pick it too early than too late. So we'll be picking the Merlot by hand.
Why by hand, not machine?
Well, because it doesn't pick well with a machine, because the process of the machine is a vibration given to the vine, which will just makes the berries drop in little containers. And Merlot, the berry is quite tight on the stem. More, if we want to pick it a bit early, it's even tighter. So it doesn't drop properly. And also the wood of the Merlot is the plant is quite fragile, so we would have to shake harder and would probably break the vegetation, and of course we don't want to do that. So we pick it by hand. And the Cabernet Sauvignon is, in terms of ripening, is almost the opposite than Merlot. Cabernet Sauvignon needs a lot of time to ripen deeply. The tannins as long as the grape stays in a good shape, as long as the weather's okay, we'll try and leave the Cabernet as late as possible in the year to get full and deep ripeness in the tannins. And so, depending on the year, between the early Merlot and the late Cabernet Sauvignon, on this vineyard, which is 34 hectares all in one area, we can have between 4, 5, and it happened that we went up to 6 weeks difference in terms of ripening between the 2 varieties, and that's a lot. And clearly I couldn't have done that if we were only hand picking. And so we use that hand picking and machine picking. We've been doing that at Angludet for a long time, and gives us a nice flexibility, and it's a good thing. Pleased to do that.
And the last grape variety is Petit Verdot, because it used to be grown a lot in Bordeaux, but people used to say, it doesn't ripen enough in Bordeaux, so that's why the levels of it has been dropping and dropping. So how much later does Petit Verdot?
Well, as I mentioned also, all the work we're doing in the vines today, and all that helping once again, it's helping the vine to ripen the grapes, has an effect on the result of Petit Verdot. And I remember when I was a kid and following them, having fun around the picking season, I remember we were always going to pick that plot of Petit Verdot at the end of the picking. It was every year, the last plot that we were picking, Petit Verdot. And today we see that we're picking Petit Verdot often between the Merlot and the Cabernet Sauvignon.
Oh, earlier.
Earlier.
Yeah.
And the reason is, I mean, we haven't changed anything in the Petit Verdot. It's more that all that work done, all that care given on the vine makes that we manage to pick it earlier. Because it gets to ripening, it's very sensitive to rot. It's protected through all the ripening season by its high acidity it has, but as soon as the acidity drops, and that's just a few days before picking, then if it rains too much or if it's the skins start to split very quickly, so we have to be very reactive to pick it.
Mm-hmm. I suppose it's the advantage of machine harvesting as well, is you can get out there and pick very
yes,
quickly.
Exactly. Yeah. Also, the reason we pick Petit Verdot with a machine is that Petit Verdot has the stem of the Petit Verdot is very fragile, and so when we pick it by hand and we put it through a destemmer, a lot of the destemmer breaks a lot of the stems.
Okay.
And we have then on the sorting table that we do by hand, millions pieces of stem we have to take out by hand.
Okay.
So picking it with a machine makes that we leave probably 80% of the stems are left on the vines, and then we have a lot less to sort out on the table. So that's why we pick Petit Verdot by machine also.
Do you use sulfur dioxide in the vineyard to protect the grapes during picking?
Not with sulfur dioxide on the grapes with the picking. In the picking machine, we'll be using cold CO2 carbonic dioxide, which will cool down the grapes. And also, as the grapes are falling in the machine, they're cooled down and also protected with a carbonic dioxide.
Oh, okay, yeah, I'm with you. So cooling the grapes down quite important, really, isn't it? As well,
Yeah.
Slows
it gives
down
a less sensitive to oxidation of the juice.
Yeah, and then you've got no oxygen, so there's no oxidation. That's quite nice. Okay, so you bring the grapes in. You mentioned that you do some selection. What are you selecting out there? You said you're going to remove some of the stems, maybe. Do you remove rotten grape?
Or if there is, and there is every year, a grape selection to do. And that we do by hand on the vines before picking. We'll have a team going through the vines from July to mid-September. And the last step will be making sure that all the grapes which are going to be picked are good to pick. So if there are either unripened grapes or rotten grapes, those will be taken off before either the pickers go in the vines or the machine.
Yep.
So all the grape selection is done on the vines before picking. Then when the grapes come in the cellars here, we have to separate the stems to the grape, and that will be done partly mechanically and finished by hand on the table, sorting table, by hand.
Okay, I think we're going to wrap it up there, Benjamin. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome, Chris, and thank you very much.
Cheers, bud.